Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We'll just give people a few more minutes to join here. Feel free to test out your audio, or if you have any technical difficulties, just let us know. Throughout today's presentation, feel free to use the chat to ask questions. Myself, Sasha, and Mike is also on this call. We will both be monitoring the chat and answering questions. Mike, how's my screen looking? Is it in full screen?
No, well, the slide looks a bit compressed.
How's that?
That's great.
Is that okay? The view now?
Yeah, looks great.
Perfect. And Mike, I think there's just a few more people joining. If you just want to keep an eye on the waiting room, we can get going here.
Sure. I don't know if I'm not hosting, then I'm not getting the waiting room. Let me just check.
Let's see here.
Do you want to make me host while you do your presentation?
Right. So here we go. Okay, you should be host now.
Okay, I'm letting some people in.
Okay. So hi, everyone. My name is Sasha, and I'm with the Community Data Program. Thank you so much for joining today, and welcome to the Community Data Program orientation. Today's webinar will be a brief overview of the Community Data Program and what it can do for you. Also on today's webinar, we have my colleague Mike. Mike will be leading the demo during the second half of today's session. We will both be monitoring the chat throughout the presentation, so feel free to put in any questions, concerns, or technical difficulties you may be experiencing throughout the course of the presentation. So this presentation is meant to provide an overview of the Community Data Program, including its history, what data is in the catalog, what tools and resources the CDP offers. And I'm also going to highlight some examples of what others have done with CDP data. We will also provide an introduction to the website and an example of finding and using data, which, as I said, Mike will lead us through. Some of today's audience is brand new to the program, and we welcome you. And others are looking for a bit of a refresher. We're glad that you're here as well. Hopefully today, after today's orientation, you will have a better idea of what you can look for in the data catalog, feel more confident in going online and downloading data sets, and have some ideas on how to use the data. So let's begin with an overview of what is the Community Data Program. So the Community Data Program was created in the 1990s to track poverty at the neighborhood level. It is a unique and exclusive program in Canada designed to provide custom socioeconomic data sets. The Community Data Program is a way to share the cost of buying data for small area geographies from federal sources such as Statistics Canada, as well as from some private sector sources. Members of the CDP primarily use the data to analyze and report on socioeconomic trends in their communities. The CDP also enhances the data analysis capacity of members and connects organizations through a national network of data users and researchers. The program was initially created by the Canadian Council on Social Development and is now administered by the Canadian Community Economic Development Network, also known as CEDNet. So as I said, the CDP is a national network made up of a network of consortiums. This map showcases the geographic reach of the CDP. Examples of organizations that are already members of the Community Data Program include municipal governments, which is most often members of the planning department, United Way chapters, community health centers, social planning councils, school boards, immigration and youth services, libraries, and economic development agencies. Currently, we have over 30 consortia who are located across the country. The consortia are made up of over 350 different member organizations, and we also have over 1,500 people registered as unique users on the CDP website. These users can access data, interact with different dashboards, as well as view a range of different tutorial videos. So now that I've gone over what the CDP is, I'm going to discuss what the CDP can do for you. The CDP helps municipalities and community sector organizations to monitor and report on trends, such as an increase in poverty levels in neighborhoods. The CDP also works to acquire customized data sets on specific demographics or custom area geographies. The CDP also works to reduce the cost of buying data by sharing the costs across the whole network. The CDP also seeks to build the capacity of users to do more with data through training tools and networking opportunities. And finally, the CDP works closely with data providers to advocate for data at a community level. So what is the benefit of CDP membership? CDP members get, firstly, direct access to web-based customized community data. CDP members also get access to data analysis tools such as the Community Recovery Dashboard, as well as training sessions and tutorial videos, which are intended to build capacity of members to make use of the data. Additionally, the program manages a national network with teleconferences and annual meetings so people can learn how others across the country are using data. So now I'm going to switch over and talk a bit about what datasets are available through the CDP program. So in order to find information for smaller areas, such as the population or demography of a local neighborhood or street block, datasets need to be custom ordered from Statistics Canada. Broadly speaking, we always ask for data to be at the smallest area possible. This is, of course, while taking into consideration privacy concerns. This means that there's often data available through the Catalogue at the sub-provincial, as well as lower and upper tier municipalities, as well as, when it's possible, neighborhood and block areas. We obtain custom data from Statistics Canada that includes both custom, cross-tabulations, and unique combinations of different variables. We also order data for neighborhood boundaries that are created by our members. Often the communities and neighborhoods that we recognize in our cities do not perfectly match with how Statistics Canada breaks them down for census collection. So the data available freely and directly from Stats Can doesn't really tell the story of how our neighborhoods are doing. Statistics Canada can, however, provide the data for specific neighborhoods when we give them the boundaries. So we work with members to create different boundaries and then advocate to Statistics Canada to get these data sets. Alongside the data, our website contains tools that support data analysis, reporting, and visualization. The website also provides links to open and free open source data. So at its core, the program still focuses on obtaining data to monitor socioeconomic trends. We order data tables on topics such as housing, health, cultural identity, and this includes things such as immigration, visible minority status, and Indigenous identity, as well as things such as health, demographics, education, work, finances, and income levels. So this is just some examples of different data sets that we draw from quite frequently. So from the Census and National Household Survey, we order both the standard table and custom geographies for community profiles, which are essentially a summary of all the questions posed by the census, and target group profiles. And target group profiles are for specific demographic groups, such as recent immigrants, seniors, or low-income populations. We also order T1 family file, which is data that comes from annual personal income tax files. We order the standard postal geographies as well as some census geographies for all tables coming out of the T1 family file. The standard tables include family data, individual data, seniors data, financial data, which also includes charitable donations, as well as migration within Canada. Other small area data sets we order include Canadian business counts, credit report characteristics, permanent residence data cube, and building permits. Small area data products include a postal code conversion file. So now I'm just going to quickly highlight some of the fantastic work and data visualizations our members have used and created using CDP data. So this helpful infographic summarizes 2016 census findings for the Calgary CMA. It presents data on population, income, diversity, employment, commute, and education. The document is a great resource for Calgary-based groups, educators, employers. It is a helpful prototype for how to visualize census data for communities across Canada. So moving on to the second example, the Report Card Coalition has published several reports that focus on the health and well-being of local children and youth in Wellington-Dufferin-Guelph region. The data portal is an online reporting tool that allows users to explore and download data across 5 domains, including education, health, living, environment, safety, and social relationships. So another great example of what a member has done with CDP data. And then finally, Healthstats is a section of the Simcoe Muskoka District Public Health Unit's website and is dedicated to communicating data to internal users, community partners, and the general public. These pages provide information on key health indicators, trends, and municipal level data. In many cases, this information is used to help plan services and improve the health of the community. The region's low-income Focus report offers a clear picture of who lives in low income in the Simcoe Muskoka area, the ramifications of living in low income, particularly on health, and some suggestions on creating communities where everyone is able to afford the basics in life and enjoy a fulfilling and healthy lifestyle. This report in particular was shared with nearly 70 communities and provincial partners. It was created using data from the T1 family file and the National Household Survey Community Poverty Projects table. So this wraps up my portion of today's presentation. Looks like we're missing some links there. So feel free to contact the information email address at the Community Data Program. I'll pop that in the chat so everyone has it. And we're always happy to answer questions, troubleshoot with you, or help you track down a specific data set. Unless there's any questions at this point, I'm going to pass it over to Mike, who is going to give us a walkthrough of the CDP website and show you how to find data sets, download it, and open it up using the StatsCan program beyond 2020. So
thanks, Asha. I assume everyone can hear me okay? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, you're
okay. I will just start. I guess first session, I will pass over hosting duties to you so that if anyone is coming in, you can admit them. That being done, I'm going to just start by sharing my screen, and I'll just be taking everyone on a walkthrough of the site. I will have a look. Let me just make some adjustments to what Zoom is showing here. We'll do a walkthrough of the site, kind of describe some of the resources that are available, talk about how to search through the catalog and look at a couple products. And sorry, let me just put my phone on mute, sorry.
There might be a question. Roberta Jago, it looks like you have your hand up. Did you have a question for us?
I asked Roberta, I think she's just experimenting with the keyboard shortcuts.
Perfect.
So, unless now Roberta has a question. It's just a sort of a meander through the site, and beyond 2020, We're scheduled until 3 o'clock. So if anyone has particular questions that they'd like to know about, I'm happy to stay after time, and we can play around with Beyond 2020. We can get into things in a little more detail. So if I was just to start, this is the landing page that you come to. It's, this is where we post our latest news items, and anything that's new in the catalog will show up here. There's not a ton. I'm just going to run through the different menus that we have at the top. There's not, all of this is fairly self-explanatory. CDP members will show you a list of all the various consortia. Governance may be of interest to some of you if you're interested in looking to see how some of our decisions are made. Particularly, we have a few working groups that you're all welcome to join, and you can click on some of these links to see what we are talking about. While you're looking at this, you won't have these menu options. Resources is definitely worth taking a peek at. You're all clearly interested in the webinars that we have to offer. Maybe you come to this page. Old webinars recordings of webinars are put here. The rest of these are fairly self-explanatory, but one that I do like to point out is how to find data. I'll be showing you later how to look through the catalog, but one way I find myself sometimes looking for files is to use this link, which provides an Excel table with a list of all the products that we have in the catalog. It looks a little bit like this. However, I've saved it as the more recent version of Excel, which I also recommend you do if you end up using this, and filtered it. I've frozen the top headings as well. So you can, if you're looking for something, a table that has period of immigration in it, perhaps you want to use the filters to find what you're looking for, and then you can go directly to the link that's provided here. There's other information on the products also contained in this file. Sasha already went through how other CDP members use our data, but a list of some of the snapshots are provided here. This is a great opportunity for me to make a plug. For any of you who are using our data, we always want to hear back on what you're using it for. And so if you want to even send us a link, a description, if you want to fill out a community snapshot template, these all end up as little PDF files that describe the product that you've created, and we would be very grateful for that. The rest of this is fairly self-explanatory. News, check out our news sometimes in our newsletters. They come out a few times a year. And then the portals are worth looking at if you're interested. I won't talk too much about these, but we do have a project going on for CMHC. It's called the Solutions Lab, and that's definitely worth looking into if you are interested in housing and housing data and some of the questions that we're trying to answer with respect to that. We have a whole section devoted to COVID-19 data sources, and one of the tools that we created for that, immigration data for our immigration sector network, and then our Tableau infographics and dashboards. So I'll show this because I think that this webinar is about looking through the catalog and getting familiar with some of our products. Many of you might be here because you don't want to look through our catalog and you don't want to play with Beyond 2020, but you'd like to learn more. These products were created with you in mind, recognizing that we need to find a way to get a lot of the data that we have into the hands of people that don't want to spend time playing with some of the playing with the back end. So we have a number of dashboards that were created using Tableau. You don't need to have a license for this, but you just need to have access to Tableau Reader, which you can download from here. It's similar to Adobe Reader. You can read PDFs with it. So there's a list of the dashboards that we currently have available. We've used these to replace the fillable infographics, if any of you ever looked at those. And I will show you just an example of one, which is our most popular one right now, the Community Recovery Dashboard. I'm not going to go into this in too much detail. If you look on the webinar page, we have a webinar that describes this dashboard in more detail and how you can use it. But it's going to take a little while to load. But it's set up with various themes, demographics, employment, housing. You see them up here. You can look, if you are looking for a municipality, that's census subdivision, census division. So you can select the level of geography that you're interested in, and then search for what you're interested in. I am currently located in Montreal. It's going to take a little bit of time here. And then you have access to a wide range of infographics here. Some of these are split by various demographic categories, and then you can see some of the other themes that are available to you. And this is also available at CT Geographies, so Census Tracts, which are, I hesitate to call them neighborhood level geographies, but located in metropolitan areas. Here we see Toronto loading, but you can look for a CMA of interest and then choose your indicator that you're interested in. So I don't want to spend too much time on this. We do have another webinar that describes this, and we are here to talk about the catalog, which you can access by clicking Find Data here. I guess if I was going to describe one last thing before getting into this while we're doing the overview of the site, it would be to check out My Account. This is we have it set up so the default now will go to your list of files that you've downloaded here, but you can also view your information, change your password here, edit. Can't see my password. Okay, so the catalog. This is the main interface for searching for our data products. Whatever is found is listed down below. The default is just to show a list of files based on the date that they were posted. So this GIS product showing downtown boundaries was the most recently uploaded product, and then it goes down as you see here. So the various filters that you have here for searching the catalog can let you narrow down what you're looking for. We do have the products tagged by topic, although full disclosure, this is a somewhat imperfect way of looking for a data product. It's a good way to get a first look to see what might be available, but you shouldn't use this assuming that it will show everything that we have. Also, when you're using these filters, it's important to note that, say, within a filter, I can select multiple I can have multiple selections. So if I'm interested in the Canadian Business Counts, Canadian Survey on Disability, if I click apply, it's going to show me Canadian Business Counts and the Canadian Survey on Disability. So it'll show me both. These two don't need, we're not looking for the intersection of these two criteria. However, if I am looking for Canadian Survey on Disability and I want something from 2011, there is no, we don't have any Canadian Survey on Disability data from 2011, so you will get nothing. And that's what the nothing page looks like when you. So the best way to approach this is really to start with using as few filters as possible. So you don't need to identify the product group and the geographies you're interested in and the years. My suggestion would be to start with the product group. If you have an idea of what you're looking for, if you're looking for something from the 2016 census, I can type 2016, and you can see the classes of tables that are available here. And then you can use geographies to search for the level of geography you're looking for. You can't look for a specific geography. This is somewhat useful. I find it really most useful if you have custom geographies and you just want to narrow down the tables that have custom geographies. Otherwise, it's good just to look and see what we have and then see if it's available at the level of geography you're interested in. Or look and see what we have and then do a second search indicating the geography. So this is the one that I find most interesting, looking for the product group. So I showed you for the census, we have, click out again. We have tax filer data from the T1 family file. A lot of people are interested in Canadian business counts or the postal code conversion file. So I find this is one of the more useful filters. Data provider is somewhat self-explanatory, but I find somewhat less useful. And years within data, maybe that's useful for you. The title is if you know exactly what is in this field, so that you're seeing here. So if I hit, you can see I was interested in our home energy tables for a while, and I know that home energy is in the title. Or someone was asking recently about activity limitations. So that will give me cultural and activity limitations characteristics, but we also see that work activity shows up. So that's just a quick introduction to how to use the filters to look for your data. But another way, if that's not working for you and you find that this is an inefficient way to look for something, you can always contact us. We're happy to help. We are trying to move more towards a responsive service, and just particularly to make the value of the program known to our modest capacity users who may not want to deal with this interface. Because a lot of you are doing this off the side of your desk or don't have time to play with this, and we want to accommodate that. So once you've found what you're looking for, you'll see the list here. I like selecting a larger number of items per page, but do as you like. So hopefully you're all familiar with how to download tables, but I will just show you here, go through the steps. It's worth noting what's on this page, the catalog entries. We try to put useful information into the description. You can see here that this table is for economic family households. And it has a matching table, which is the tables couldn't be put together to include economic family households and unattached individuals. So we receive them separately, and here's the link to the other table. The dimensions indicate, so a dimension for a table in a multi-dimensional table, if I can just jump ahead to beyond 2020, a dimension is a list of variables. And you can see why it's called a dimension, because we can start, you know, this table here essentially has 2 dimensions with some filters at the top, but we can pull down other dimensions into it. Now it has 3 dimensions plus some filters. It's showing for all of Canada. So this is a dimension with 7 variables. This is a dimension with 5 variables. And this is where you're going to see more detail on what is in the table. So here we're getting counts of economic families and private households that have incomes below the low income measure before tax, after tax, LICA before tax and after tax, and the market basket measure. And similarly, the other dimensions are described here. One thing, when you're looking, you know, just seeing this example, we have 2 dimensions here: selected cultural and activity limitations, activity limitation characteristics, and selected dwelling, housing and income characteristics. These selected characteristics, if you're looking for a particular variable, it's worthwhile to search in the title, to search for the word selected. You may find, if you're looking for a period of immigration, or it may be in the title, but it may also be contained in one of these dimensions where we are piling in a bunch of useful information and we can't list all of it, so we just call it selected characteristics. And so here you see these, this table has a number of demographic economic family concepts. So you can have a visible minority economic family, Aboriginal economic family with at least one person with activity difficulties, showing the different frequency that they experience it at. So that's where you would get a good amount of information to see if the table has what you're looking for before downloading it. The geographies that are available. Maybe you're on dial-up modem and you want to know how big the file size is. So if this is a table that you decide you want to download, you choose the geography that you're interested in, province and territory, census division, census subdivision, census metropolitan area, census agglomeration, census tract, aggregated dissemination area. So this table was a bit too big for us to get at the dissemination area level, but otherwise we do try to get all the tables that we receive at the lowest level of geography, which here would be dissemination area level. But if you want this, you click on the geography, add it to the cart, and you don't need to pay for tables. That's here because we offer, you can pay your membership fee through this interface, submit the order, and it will take you to your list of file downloads. I don't believe that this has been fixed. We've had a number of Drupal developers try to fix this. The tables show up here based on the first time that you added them to this list, first time that you downloaded them. So this is my first time downloading this particular table. However, if I had tried to download the income profile dashboard, it won't appear at the top of this list. It appears down here, unfortunately. And we've tried to get that fixed, but that's the way Drupal is set up. So if you have already downloaded a table and you forgot that you did it, and then you go back to the catalog and you try to download it again, and it's not at the top of your list, you may just want to have a look down your list and see if the table that you're looking for is down here. That's an email that I get from time to time that the download wasn't working. So that describes generally the process from searching for your data product, finding it in the list, finding out about it, and downloading it. From here, I would go on to talking about what you actually downloading the table to your computer and then opening it in Beyond 2020, and we'll do a little tour of Beyond 2020. But if you have any questions about searching for tables, this might be a good time, but really any time is if you want to ask the questions later, that's fine too. So I had already, just so you don't have to watch my computer download, I've already downloaded a few files. So this file would open like so. A quick note, which I guess I should say, hopefully, if you don't absolutely need to, everyone don't go to the catalog and download it once right now. We've had some problems with webinars where too many people are accessing the catalog and get a little crash on the site. I think that we've resolved that problem, but I can't be completely sure. So if you don't need to, then just wait until after the webinar.
Hi, Mike, there's just a question in the chat about custom geographies. Wendy's just wondering what sort of custom geographies are available.
So the custom geographies that we have available are those that are submitted by you. And we our members can submit their service delivery areas, wards, election boundaries, any kind of non-standard geography. Typically, it's good to give it to us as a shapefile. However, if your custom geographies are built from standard geographies, if they're built based on census tracts or dissemination areas, you can give us a correspondence file that just lists which standard geographies go in each custom geography. And we submit those to Statistics Canada, they geocode them, and we get a limited number of tables with those geographies. And we pay for the geocoding and for the rest. If you are interested in this, I encourage you to start the process of submitting, to start now. We want to start submitting. We're well ahead of the point where Statistics Canada would be able to do any work on the custom geographies, but it's good just to get in the queue and just as to put people's expectations in check. This is a bottleneck for the program, and at Statistics Canada, they have limited capacity for geocoding, they have limited capacity for table production, and there's a lot more. I mean, we have a lot of members with custom geographies, and then there's everyone else out there who also wants custom geographies. So it's not too soon to send us your custom geographies now. If you have any questions about that, you can contact me directly, because that's essentially the process, is that you send it to us and we submit it to, you send it to me and we submit it to Statistics Canada. And I should be sending out a note to your consortium leads soon about that. So ideally, this is something you would do, notifying your consortium lead. Okay, so this is what Beyond 2020 looks like. This is sort of the fourth table I've opened, and they kind of stack them up like this, but I'll just take a look at this table here. it's quite busy. When you're using this, it's good to note that Beyond 2020 is not a program that you can really, or I think you can do some analysis. You can't really manipulate the data that much, and whatever you can do, I kind of recommend against you doing it here. The goal should be just to take the data from here and get it into Excel. And you do that just by selecting File, Save As. You can tell from this interface that this software was designed sometime in the 90s and hasn't been touched since. It's worth noting while you're playing with this that the default directory that it wants to save in is some obscure Windows directory. So I just go to the very top of the list, and then, so for me, that's the C drive, and just start scrolling down for something that you recognize. For me, it's users, and there's my name, Michael Dieter, and I go to documents. For you, it may, maybe you have a shared drive at work, but just go up as high as you can and then drill down to where you want to save it. So if we just save everything in data inquiries, you'll want to change the file type. But they have these old formats that. So this is, you can save it as an Excel Word sheet, but you'll notice it's the old XLS format. My habit is to save everything as a CSV because there's no size limitations on the file. So this is going to give me essentially just this flat data table that we're seeing here, and not showing any of the, sorry, I need to move the zoom menu out of the way. Maybe it's not in the way for you, but it is for me. So there's a number of other dimensions up here, but they are currently just serving as filters. And you can you name your file, and then you want to go and find it later. And that should be your goal, to get it out of Beyond 2020, because you can't really do anything in this. So why don't I run through some of the basic functions of Beyond 2020. What's great about this is that this program makes it possible for us to get very large data files in a compact format that would be quite unwieldy to access as a CSV or a flat data file, and would be very expensive as well for various reasons that you're probably not interested in. But we can take these dimensions that we might be interested in, and we can manipulate them as I showed you before. You just click on it, drag it down into the table, and it's highlighted where it's going to end up. And when I let go, the geography dimension comes down, and the dimension that I was looking at jumps up to here. If I want to switch rows and columns, I can just grab the dimension of interest and drag it over. It doesn't suffice to click in here. This will highlight one of the elements in the dimension. You grab the dimension like this and search like that. So right now we're looking at selected cultural characteristics. Say we're interested in finding how many visible minority economic families are in low income. So I will take it, just for the ease of use, I like to put things here. It's easier than doing it here in the column headings. So if we're interested in the market basket measure, we can select that. So to start making this table get the cross tabulations in this table that we're interested in, we might, right now, this is showing for all geographies. I can take this dimension. If I let go now, it's going to replace the column headings there. But if I bring it down a little more and you see this line show up, then it's going to stack the dimensions. So now we have the selected cultural characteristics stacked on top of selected income characteristics. I guess I'm got the wrong one. I'm looking for low income, so I can drag it down, and then the dimension that was previously here jumps back up and serves as a filter up at the top. So again, this table is too busy. We want to cut it down a little bit. So we might be interested in creating an indicator that indicates the fraction of all economic families that are in low income. So we're going to need both these variables. So I click on one that I'm interested in. Now I'm holding down Control, and I click on the total, and I've got them both highlighted now. And if I right click and select Show, then it's going to hide everything except for those two variables. And now if I switch, bring the geography dimension back to here, you can see I've got counts of families in low income here and the total counts here. If this is not quite how you want it set up, then we can switch these. Now we have a table that shows all the various selected cultural characteristics. You can stretch this out to make it a little bit more readable. And this is showing the various cultural characteristics for all economic families, and then here it's showing it for those in low income. So you can see how you can play around with table setup in Beyond 2020 before you even get to Excel. And again, we were talking about, say we're interested in visible minority economic families, so we likely want to get a fraction out of this. So we'll take the total, I'm holding down Control, I select visible minority, you can right click and select Show. Or if you want, you can start just selecting some of these, right click and hit Hide. But this is a somewhat easier way to do it. So we've narrowed it down a little. The table is now showing total economic families, those families in low income, as well as the total and visible minority economic families. So now you're going to want to search for your geography. You can obviously just scroll down if you're so inclined, but this is a good opportunity to show how the search function works. Before showing the search function though, we should look at this functionality here, which changes the label on a dimension. And this is most useful when looking at the geography. There's not that many labels here. You're seeing a description of the variable. If I change the label, then you just, this is sort of an index of what the variables are listed by. But for geography, there are a number of options. So here we see I've changed the label, and this is showing me now the level of geography and the code for this geography. So this is provincial with a code 35. If you know your SGC codes, you know this is 35 is for Ontario. You can always look up and find what your code is. If we keep switching, this is a data quality label. This gives just the geographic level. If for some reason this this might be useful, say, if you are working with census tracts and you want to extract only the census tract data from a file, then you can search just by census tract. And this is just the SGC code and index, and then back to the name. These percentages here, this is the global non-response rate. It's great when we have tables that have all these different labels because it helps with their manipulation. Unfortunately, they don't all, they aren't all as well labeled as this one, and this one could even be labeled a little better. Say we'll be asking for you know, a label with only the English description and not with the CSD type. So this is, you know, municipality, or this is a city, it's a township. We don't need all this. Anyway, so if you're searching for your geography, here I'm originally grew up in London, Ontario. So I would go to the English description and type London, even just part of it, and it will return any name that contains this string. And type of selection, this indicates what is going to happen to the table once we hit select. So the table is going to be reduced to show only that text with London in it. Expand will be useful. I can show you in a second what that does. But if we search for my hometown of London, then you see we get London here. And if we want to play with this table more, we may just want to put London up in the top as a filter and then continue to work with this file. However, say we wanted to add Ontario to here to have a comparison with the City of London to the province of Ontario. We can, if we search for Ontario now, it's not going to find anything because it's not listed in geography dimension, and we didn't select expand. So if we search for Ontario now, after selecting expand, then this table will be expanded to include anything that has Ontario in it while keeping the London label. I must have, this is not a bad example for what can go wrong. I must have clicked something in this dimension to select the income bracket 30 to 40,000. We can fix that by dragging it down, and you'll see, don't assume, it's good to check what dimensions are up top filtering this table. Right now, this is showing for London. You may have been expecting it to show for Ontario. So it's good to know what you're looking at. So I had clicked in here and it's showing the 30 to 39,000 income range. So it's showing counts of economic families with this income. Probably what you want to get it to is the total. And then we can just drag this down. And up at the top, when you're using, if you're trying to extract from a table, you typically are going to want all of these to be showing totals, unless you want to be using them as a filter. So if we take this down, it's showing London. We can change that as shown before. I would drag it down, select Ontario, and put it back up. Or you can click on this. You can see that the geography dimension is highlighted, and we can change the value. It's going to scroll through the list, and you can see the table changes depending on whether it's filtering for Ontario or for London. And you can do this with any of these dimensions. This is showing the total now. If you happen to know it's a small list and you just want to scroll through, which this is. So here we see this is total economic families with a spouse or reference person over 65 or older, 75 or older, 85 or older, not a non-elderly spouse or reference person, and then back to the total. That shows most of what you can do here. We can also, if you don't want to file and save as to export your table, this is a fairly small table. We can just highlight these. I can hit Control-C, or you can right-click and select copy, and then we can just go to an Excel file and export the data that way. When you do that, it very kindly indicates all of the filters that were at the top and what they were selected to. For those of you who may want to work in French, you can change the language of all the variables. Getting this back to the full list, I just can right-click and select Show All. Again, I already showed you how to hide variables. Once you've hidden this, you can't get back to just the Ontario and London list. We would have to show the entire list and then go and do our search again. So I would right-click and select Show All, or Dimension, Show All, and here they are back again. And so some of these functions are available in this top menu, so you can change the labels of a dimension. This is good to note. I recently came across a table that showed employment rate and participation rate with no decimals being shown, and so this can be changed. So right now it will change it for just the selected dimension, but if we do that again, it'll do it for everything. So yeah, that's unfortunate. There may be other examples of this. If you come across something that looks like it's just too neatly rounded, all of the numbers are even percent numbers, counts obviously don't have any decimals, but or often, sorry, I should correct myself, they often don't have decimals. Some of these things are you do get fractional counts in some tables, but you may want to use that to check to see if there's a bit more accuracy available. So that summarizes most of what you can do with Beyond 2020. If I've gone through it too quickly, I'm happy to go and demonstrate it again. Maybe I'll just take a moment now to ask if there are any questions. I'll have a look in the chat. Radio silence. Okay, something about custom geographies. So, I mean, I can go into more detail about some of these tables. At this point, I would put the question to you. What would you like to know about with Beyond 2020, with our catalog, with some of the tables? We are scheduled to go until 3 o'clock, so I can ramble on for a while if you're not going to stop me. When you're looking for tables, what are right now, most people are interested in the census. I was just showing you examples from the Community Poverty Project. These are pretty interesting multidimensional tables that all have one of their dimensions with all of the available low-income lines. So you can cut,
Mike,
in this case,
a question in the chat, if you want to just take a minute to answer that.
Sure.
The question is, can you merge/manipulate data sets using the Beyond 2020 software, or is it simply for viewing and exporting?
Simply for viewing and exporting. I think if you could, yeah, which you can't, or we can't. I think that there is a designer version of this program, but I don't think you want to use it in this. I don't think this is a very this is great for disseminating data and making large data files available, and you can manipulate it and set it up into a format where you then get it out and work with it in Excel.
You can't have two data tables side by side though. Like you can minimize this and then open a second table.
I mean, you can minimize everything, and you can set the tables up like this as you like, which may be helpful for you. But yeah, again, I'm more of a fan of working in Excel and getting it out of here. You have a brief memory of what software looked like in the 90s, and then come back to the present day. Were there any other questions? Yeah, so this is an example of the Community Poverty Project where you can see we have counts by all the various low-income lines, and that's the common thread in.
There is a question asking if we have infographics for the Poverty Project.
We have a Tableau dashboard, a poverty dashboard. All of them are essentially version 1, and was made. Where are we? The poverty profile dashboard. You could download it here. It only has counts based on the after-tax low-income measure, unfortunately. So these were done to replace some of our infographics, and really just to have a first run at getting out as many dashboards that we thought would be as useful as possible with basic information to our members, but just with constraints of time and production capacity, we weren't able to get in everything that's in the Community Poverty Project into the poverty dashboard. So ideally, one of the upcoming versions of the dashboard would have various income lines that you could cut the counts by. But if after-tax low-income measure is of use to you, then by all means take a look. So the target group profiles, these are some of our more popular tables. As Sasha indicated, a target group profile is essentially, it's a version of the census profile. The census profile is a one-dimensional list summarizing responses to most of the questions in the census long form, but it's showing counts for a particular demographic group. So in this case, you would have the target group profile for the population with activity limitations, by school attendance. So counts are split by did not attend school, attended elementary or secondary, and so on and so on. It's worth noting that because target group profiles are defined based on person characteristics, so did the person go to school? Was the person living alone? The target group profiles are missing a lot of data on households and families, which is why we created another set of target group profiles called the household and family target group profiles, to get at some of the data that was missing from the target group profiles. And you see them here as well. So these are closer to the top because they were produced later. And so similarly, we have concepts for a visible minority household or a visible minority family. Same for Aboriginal identity. In some cases these are obvious. This is a household that is spending 30%, over 30%, or over 50% of their income on shelter costs. Owner and renter households. You get the idea. And the definition is in the catalog entry. One note for target group profiles, if you're going to be using it, again, so it's providing a count just for this demographic group. So there's no total count included here, which can be confusing. So if you want to know the prevalence of a certain demographic group in your population, you're going to need the total as well. Because these files come from the long form, it's recommended that you use the total count also produced from the long form, so which we call, even if your total that you're interested in is available in a short form, which is the 100% sample that everyone receives, when you're using a target group profile and you want to have a denominator to divide it by, we encourage you to use this census profile to get your denominator from, as it was created from the long form. So it's comparable. It's from a comparable data set. If that's clear. I don't know if I've explained that, or if that's something worth noting while we're talking about data sets.
Mike, we have a question kind of on that note. Where is the best place to see a list of data sets that are on order but not yet in the catalog?
On order but not yet in the catalog. So we have Schedule B, which used to be down. Used to have a link right here. But that's not, that describes very generally what we describe. We don't have that list published and available yet, but we can get you some of the information. And some of that is, we indicate what we are going to try to acquire. Note that a lot of this depends greatly on StatsCan capacity, on production capacity. And that can vary greatly from what we think we're getting at the start of the year to what we actually get by the end of the year. But if you have specific questions about what we will be acquiring, I can get you answers to those questions if you email me directly. But we are still working out some of our priorities, speaking with StatsCan about what is actually possible, and seeing how all that jives with the budget. But generally, for this year, you know, we have our standard tables that we get every year. We get the standard tax filer, data, Canadian business counts, building permits, intercensus population estimates, the postal code conversion file. And then beyond that, we have a number of custom orders that we put in. So there'll be some custom tables coming from the census, both custom geography and standard geographies, and then a few other custom projects. We'd like to do one more project this year involving data modeling. We're looking to find ways to fill data gaps using data modeling. We had some success looking at liquid assets at the census division level and census subdivision level, although the census subdivision level data are much less reliable. And so that's one custom product we're looking at, but this is still a bit of a work in progress. Hopefully I answered your question sufficiently.
There's a thanks in the chat for that.
Okay. Yeah, is there anything else? I guess, if you were sticking around while I ramble about data tables, then I think I've covered most of I guess what I'd want to communicate just about the census data tables is that we do have quite a lot of very rich data tables that can be cross-tabulated in a number of different ways. And what you're looking for may be buried in one of these selected variable dimensions. It can be possible to find it using the product title. If you feel like looking through looking through the catalog for what you're looking for, then that's great. If not, you're welcome to contact us, and we are fairly familiar with what we have and what we don't have. Yeah, does anyone have any specific questions about like what they would like to do in Beyond 2020 with our data? I'm trying to think of specific questions that that came up recently.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any questions coming in the chat. We should note too that on the CDP website, there's a whole list of different resources for using Beyond 2020. We'll post this webinar, but there are a couple tutorial videos as well as a guidebook with step-by-step instructions about how to use Beyond 2020, which are pretty helpful as well.
Yes, indeed. The one I certainly don't ever refer people to watch me give an orientation on using Beyond 2020, because we have, I think this one is probably, sorry.
Maybe under resources.
Yes. Use this one for using Beyond 2020. This orientation, I think, contains a good description for how to use Beyond 2020. If you start the video, there's the orientation, and then around 30 minutes in, how to use Beyond 2020 starts.
There looks like there's another question in the chat asking, do we have any population growth types of tables, so any projections?
we're looking into getting data on projections, but we don't have any now. We're just looking to see what makes the most sense. Like we typically get data, the lowest level of geography that we would get typically is a census subdivision, although we would get census metropolitan area if it's really a very popular table, and we can't get lower than CMA. But specifically for projections, some of the components that go into calculating population projections aren't available at the census subdivision level. So we can ask. We're looking into that, but it would be a pretty crude technique. We did a project for Canadian Home Builders Association calculating doing population projections at the CSD level, and there are techniques for doing it without. I think specifically, you can't get the vital statistics, the immigration data that would be used to calculate these data at the census subdivision level. There is a technique for doing it, but it's not, it's not as accurate.
There's another question in the chat, Mike. What geography starts with a C code? For example, I have C10, C12.
C10, C12. That's what it starts with? Or we have, there are sometimes labels in there, particularly with some of our custom tabulations that begin CU, and that indicates that it's a custom. 10 and 12 are the provincial codes for Newfoundland, Labrador, and Nova Scotia, but I don't think that's what they're asking. I'm sorry, I'm not sure. If you want to give more detail, I'm happy to answer. As far as what's coming, something that's good to note while I have a number of people here is, again, I always like to put people's expectations in check. 2021 data, as we are in talks with Statistics Canada to get our order in as soon as we can start, and typically I expect that we will have orders for target group profiles in before the dissemination date, but we really can't get, like, it's November, end of November 2022 that all of the data are available, that they can start making custom tables with all of the data. So anything like target group profiles, which is a big part of what we order, they couldn't start producing it until that date. And so it's good to note that the delay on, we're stuck with 2016 census data for a while yet. So the bulk of what we're going to be getting won't be getting here till 2023 and 2024. Just as a heads up for when you would like to get some of these data. Tax filer tables are sometimes a good substitute for what you may be looking for, because they are produced yearly, and they have a 2-year. This is similarly about a 2-year delay, but tax filer data has about a 2-year delay. So in this summer 2021, we'll be getting 2019 tax filer data. Any other questions? Show off some of our new data sets. The IMTB. Anyone interested in taking a peek at these? These were ones that we used to get the permanent residence data cube that showed landings data, but IRCC was not sort of willing to share that with us anymore. So this is what we got instead. but they are quite, if you're interested in data on the immigrant population, then these are pretty great. But can be a bit complex to use because you are following specific cohorts. For example, it's longitudinal data. If there's no other questions, we can end early, but again, I'm happy to jump into people's very specific questions. We can calculate something, export from Beyond 2020 and calculate in Excel. That's what we've done in some of these orientations before. But if everyone is good, then you're welcome just to send me your questions directly.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any more questions coming in the chat. We can probably wrap up now. As Mike said, we're happy to take questions. Either you're welcome to directly email Mike. I think I put his email in the chat, or the information at communitydata.ca email address is great for inquiries as well. I will note that on June 22nd, we have Sean Bruhl from Statistics Canada coming in to do a demonstration using data from the Canadian Community Health Survey. So that registration was sent out yesterday, so hopefully some of you can join. Yeah, so thank you so much for coming today and participating. I hope this was an informational and useful session for everyone. Take care.
Thanks for joining.